Hi, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and I am now live in our special Zoom classroom for the members of our free Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. We have a free class every month for the members of our free group. And then after the class, the next day, usually, I upload that video onto YouTube just as a extra courtesy so that those of you in YouTube land can also view it. So I just ask for your love and your patience, those of you in YouTube land, that just to remember that this is a Zoom class, this is an informal Zoom class, and some people are used to very formal videos on YouTube. So we get some like hate comments. So I really am posting it on YouTube as an extra courtesy. So if anybody watching this, if it bothers you that I will be mentioning other resources, because I'm a student, like I'm somebody that's always learning my whole life. I appreciate knowing what all the layers of resources are. That's just me as a learner. So as a teacher, I want to share various layers of resources with you also, because there's only so much that I can share with you in this 60 to 90-minute free class. So if you're someone who gets really angry when someone on YouTube talks about their other resources, then click off now. Lots of love to you. We love you so much, and go away. We don't want you like ranting on our videos. The rest of you, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm just so grateful for each one of you. Those of you who are here live, I'm kind of tearing up right now, you guys, getting red eyes. Those of you who are here live, and then those of you watching the replay, wherever you're watching the replay. I just so appreciate that there's this small but mighty group of people who are waking up to certain things spiritually. There's a lot of people that are waking up to different things. The people that are attracted to these classes and these videos are the ones that are waking up to things like higher levels of spiritual discernment, understanding what false light entities and are all about, understanding some of the problems with current spirituality, etc. And so I just really appreciate you and where you are in your journey and your open-mindedness and your willingness to question, even if you don't agree with everything that I say. That I want to get you thinking about things. So I'm just so grateful for you. I haven't even mentioned today's topic, so let's do that. Today's topic is how astral travel. How astral travel is used for spiritual warfare and psychic attack. So astral travel relating to psychic attack. So have you, and assuming that you know what astral travel is, but I'll define it in a minute, have you been drawn to this video because you've had an experience with that, being attacked astrally? And I'll go over the different nuances of what that looks like. But has that ever happened to you? I would love for you to share your story either here live with us or in the replay in the comments. And by the way, any comments that you make in the replay, it helps to boost the video so that more people who need help can find it. So I encourage you to start conversations and share what, even if you just say, thanks, loved the video, or whatever, or if you say something even deeper, I welcome you to make comments. So those of you who are joining live, let me know where you're joining from. And are there any ways that you can relate to this topic about astral travel and any sort of negative interference related to astral travel? Now, want to just give you a heads up. I'm just going to acknowledge that I have 2 whole pages of notes, and I'm going to be glancing down at my notes because it's just impossible for me to remember all the nuances of everything that I want to teach to you today. So even though this is basically introductory beginner content to help you understand a certain type of psychic attack, this is important content and there's a lot to it. So I've been a teacher my whole life. I really and a lifelong learner too. And I definitely encourage you to grab a pen and paper if you're able and take some notes. Okay. So, where are you joining from? So while I'm waiting for you guys to give a few little introductions, those of you who are here live, let me give a quick definition of astral travel. And bear with me if you already know all about what it is, but I might mention nuances that you hadn't thought of before. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about 2 aspects of astral travel. First of all, astral travel, sometimes people mispronounce it and call it astro travel, but it's astral, A-S-T-R-A-L, astral travel. Astral travel is when someone's, I'm going to be real basic here, it's when someone's spiritual essence leaves their body and some part of their consciousness leaves their body. Their spiritual essence, their consciousness. So this is also called an out-of-body experience when someone goes and explores the spiritual realms consciously. You can be asleep or awake when you astral travel. Some people astral travel without even knowing that they did so. When they're sleeping. And then they have what they think are dreams, but the dreams are maybe not dreams. They're actually experiences in the astral, in the spiritual realm. And they're in their astral body, their spiritual body. Again, I'm very simplifying here just for the sake of time as far as terminology. So be patient with that. So if you astral travel, that is when your spiritual essence leaves your body. Your astral body leaves your physical body and you go travel in the spiritual realm, in the astral realm. But there are also experiences where you're just going about your day, or you're lying in bed, sleeping, or trying to fall asleep, and someone else astral travels to you. And what we're going to be talking about today mainly is when they do that, when they astral travel to you without consent. Because you could do little experiments where you astral travel back and forth to your friend and you've consented to it and you've made an arrangement that you're going to do that. But that's not the kind that I'm talking about. I'm talking about when someone comes into your space and they do not have permission to do so. And I'm going to go into details today. I'm going to break it down for you in a very linear, descriptive sort of way as we go. But first, I wanted to make sure everybody understands what astral travel is. Again, most of you probably already know what it is, but maybe some of these nuances you hadn't thought of before. Astral travel, when you leave your body, or when someone else leaves their body and either interacts with you in real life in 3D, or when it could also happen in the dreamscape, or when you're astral traveling, someone else is astral traveling. I'll break down the details in a little bit. I'm not going to get too complex just yet. So before I go on to the next section, I'm going to read comments. And I also want to let you know, stick around to the end because even if you've never had this happen before, if you have or if you haven't, I'm going to give 3 tips for how you can have more safety around this issue. And these are tips that anybody can do, and you don't have to get any of my other resources in order to apply these tips. So I'm going to give you 3 fully formed tips at the end. So stay to the end, okay? So let's read some comments here. And this is something fun that those of you who are here live, we get to have fun reading comments and just taking a break from the content for just a little bit. Catherine is saying, cool, I've been waiting for this topic. Lee says that she is in Chandler, Arizona. Lee, I'm trying to remember if you, because I live in Arizona too. I'm wondering if we've ever met. I used to be involved in some of the psychic fairs in Phoenix, but I haven't in the last couple of years. So I'm wondering
Don't
if
go
we've
to a
ever
lot
met.
of,
Oh,
yeah, I don't
okay.
go to a lot of psych. So
Okay.
I do have a place down a homestead I'm building down in Pierce, Arizona. So
Okay.
I mean I have two places, but I'm just saying no, I don't go to really psychic fairs anymore.
So we haven't met.
I think
Okay.
yeah, I don't think
Okay.
so. No.
Someday. I haven't been traveling lately, but maybe I'll make it back because I'm south. Sorry, you guys, we're having a private conversation here, but I'm south. I'm south of Tucson. So, and
Okay.
you're further north. Like Chandler is not far from Sedona.
It's no, Chandler's just right outside Phoenix. It's south of Phoenix. But
Okay.
I do have a property that I'm building, but I go down there every 6 weeks or something, and I'm in Pierce, Arizona. That's like southeast of, like, I don't know if you're where you're
Oh,
at near, yeah. So I'm in the southeast. I have a place down in
okay.
southeast
Yeah.
Arizona. If I
Okay.
like to come there maybe in May or something, and if you meet at Bisbee or something, I don't know if you're near that.
Yeah,
So
who knows? Maybe at some point we'll have the chance to meet. One of the cool
yeah.
things about the us all meeting in the Zoom room is we get a chance to get to know each other a little bit better outside of the Facebook group. So it was great to meet a fellow Arizonan. So
Yep.
wonderful. Good to
Yep.
chat with you, Lee.
Good to
Okay.
chat with you
And
too.
all right, I got to move along, but hopefully we'll get a chance to chat more later as well. Catherine is joining from Sacramento, California. Lee, in her comments, says, I had an experience when I was young when I did a dream astral travel where an entity grabbed my energy. I ran away and shot pink energy from my head. That it was weird. Yeah, that's a great example. I think a lot of people can probably relate to having similar kinds of experiences. That's a really common thing to have an entity interference when you're astral traveling um, during dreaming. Yeah. And Catherine says, I have not astral traveled, but I'm concerned if I should try since it can be bad. I'm going to address that today. I do have certain opinions on it, but of course, as always, I want you to encourage you to just take whatever I share and come up with your own opinions. So I'll hold off. I'm going to address that on near the end. I'll talk about whether I would recommend astral travel or not. Okay. I have more comments. Nope, there we go. Okay, wonderful. Okay, couple of quick announcements, and then we'll get into a few of my personal stories of psychic attack that involved astral travel, a couple of really short little stories. And then I'm going to give you some definitions and two different types of psychic attack that can happen with astral travel. And this is why I recommend taking notes, because I think it'll be easier to like understand these concepts if you're writing out like number one type da 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 da, number two type da 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 da, and then that way it's really clear in your mind, and then you know right away when something happens that you need to do something about it because it's super clear to you. Couple quick announcements because I have not mentioned this yet. if you would like more information on how to working with me, then that information would be at my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. I do have other free resources. And so if you're interested, if you're watching the replay, I encourage you to join my free Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. Now we carefully screen whoever joins the free group. We don't allow people into the free group who don't have a real Facebook profile picture. If it's like a picture of a flower or something like that, we need to be able to see that you are a real person, and that helps establish the safety within the group. Now, my admins and we do understand that some people choose to not have a regular Facebook profile photo. We totally get that. Some people are concerned about safety on Facebook, as we are too. So it's kind of like, you're concerned about safety, we're concerned about safety. We need to have a real photo for your profile in order to determine whether you can join the group. And don't feel bad if we don't let you in if you have a flower or something else as your profile pic. It's not personal, but you can still apply to join and see what happens. And we'll definitely add you to our email list so that you can be notified every week when we have free content. So you'll still be in the loop no matter what. I also have 3 books on Amazon, and these books, you can find them on Amazon and on Audible. And just look up Maya Zahira, Mayazahira. I have a paid academy, which is the way that you can work with me. You can get mentoring with me over a 12-month period. If you are working with any aspect of spiritual warfare, spiritual discernment, dealing with a psychic attack, during that 12 months, we help you to get 100% completely free permanently of whatever your issue is. And we even work with really severe cases. The reason why I only work with people within the academy rather than one-on-one sessions is because it is imperative for people who are going to have success. It's imperative that you also do the work. You also have to learn how to do that. You also have to learn methods for daily protocols, for daily clearing, for how to tune into your energy. Nobody can take your power back but you. You're the only one that can do that. So that's what we do in the academy. And then there are optional one-on-one sessions. If somebody wants to supplement the group program with one-on-ones, you can do that. And then there's the YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel. Okay, those are all the resources. Grab your pen and paper, get ready to take notes. And I'm going to share I've got 2 stories. Before I go into those stories, I'm going to give just a couple of quick suggestions. If you're watching this live or the replay and you, excuse me, you are under psychic attack right now, and you're like, I need to know exactly what to do, then you need to get the book, The Psychic Attack Sourcebook. You need to get that book and go to the final chapter and in a dedicated way work on all of those techniques in the final chapter, the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. And then if you are someone who has had a spiritual healer or teacher who has one or several times astral traveled to you without your consent, breaking ethical boundaries with you, then The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers would be a book that will give you a lot of comfort and guidance. Okay. Okay, a couple stories. as I readjust. These are really quick stories. Years ago, I think it was like 18 years ago, I was on this dating website, and there was so I think this is a really good example because it shows how even in like the regular world, this crap can happen. Okay. So I was on just a normal dating website, not a spiritual people website, just normal dating website. And this guy contacted me and he said that he was a really spiritual person and he wanted a spiritual woman. But the way he talked was really weird. He was like, I want someone to be my servant and to uh I don't know. It was really weird and creepy the way that he came across. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is super weird. Um, and later that day, even when I was off my computer, he appeared in my living room. Okay. Now, this was 18 years ago. This was before I understood to the degree that I understand now about establishing certain types of energy boundaries around my home. Okay. So I was doing spiritual work even back then. I've been doing spiritual work for about 30 years now. But 18 years ago, I didn't have all of the strong boundaries that I do around my home now. So this guy was able to easily get in. He clearly astral traveled because I saw him. Now, when someone astral travels to you, it will look like a ghost, like an apparition, but the person is alive. It's not a ghost. It's not a dead person. It's not a spirit. It is someone's astral body. And I saw him and I knew right away that it was him because he looked just like his profile photo. And I was like, oh, fuck no, no, we're not doing that. And actually, I was kind of tired of the dating website or the date, whatever you call it, the dating website thing. So I was like, all right, I deleted my profile. I'm like, blocking this person energetically. And I went off the dating site because I was tired of it anyway. But this person was experienced enough that just from connecting with me through like 5 minutes of messaging and seeing my 3 photos that you upload, he was able to connect and send his astral body. Is that crazy? I mean, but people who are adept, who have the understanding and the ability to do this, they can. And so this was just some guy who said he was living in a cabin out in nature and da da da, da, and he astral traveled. Um, Now I didn't have any further issue with him. I was able to block him just by setting like mental boundaries and then completely deleting myself off of that dating website. I was ready to. Anyway, you all know how terrible dating websites can be. So that was a weird experience where just getting onto a dating website and someone who had these spiritual abilities just by looking at a couple of my photos was able to astral travel. Now, again, this was before I understood how to set proper energy boundaries around my home. Just a little side note, if you're like, well, I want to know, like, I don't want anyone to do that to me. I want to know how to protect my space. Even though this is not directly taught in my second book, the Psychicattack Sourcebook, I teach you a little bit about creating a boundary around your energy field, but you could take that same idea, but this boundary that I teach you in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook in the final chapter, creating a boundary around your own energy field. But you could also create that same sort of thing around the boundaries of your home or your property. And I teach that more in depth in Spiritual Empowerment Academy, which you can find out about at psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. But luckily, I didn't have any ongoing issues with this creep. So now I'm going to tell you a second story, and then we'll get into some definitions. Catherine says, the psychic attack source book is awesome. Yeah, that was literally my brain dump of when I went through my own major psychic attack in 2016, when I encountered a really nasty false light entity. After I cleared out that attack in 2016, I had a major awakening where I suddenly knew all sorts of things about psychic attack, spiritual warfare, psychic protection, and I was doing videos for a couple of years talking about all these things, and then I finally compiled all of it, put it into a book, and it is like there's a lot in there. There's a lot in the psychic attack source book. And Catherine says, I tried a little dating website and it was bad experiences. It was bad experiences and I didn't feel safe, so I took myself off. Yep. Yeah. Some people have had good experiences, but I did not. Okay, let's talk about story number 2, and then we'll give 2 types of attacks relating to astral travel. So the second story had to do, there's a little more backstory, but I'll try to be concise with it. There was I'll call him a dark shaman. There was a dark shaman that I didn't realize was dark at first when I first met him. He was a very active participant in my previous spiritual community. He was dating someone who was a major spiritual teacher in town. And oh, Rose, my third book is not available yet on Audible. It's kind of expensive to, I mean, just the real reason, just keeping it real here. It's expensive to create the audiobooks, to pay for it, to get all created and everything. And my plan is to have that done sometime this year, 2025, but I got to come up with the funds from book sales. Book sales have been kind of down lately, so I got to get more people buying books so we can turn the third book into an audiobook. And then, so I'm kind of waiting for that to happen, but my goal is 2025. Yes, this year. Let's put that out there. So this shaman dude was a very active participant. He used to play didgeridoo and play drums, and he was just very active in all the group spiritual events and everything. And then eventually it came out that he was a major sexual predator. And I'm trying to think. Okay. In my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light, I do talk a bit about when women started to come forward with their stories. So that's kind of interwoven into that book, Darkness Disguised as Light. Anyway, fast forward. So he has left the community that I used to be involved with. I don't see him around anymore at any of the local spiritual events. The person that he was dating broke up with him, and he was kind of pushed out of town. In the year before I moved out to Arizona, I was doing a tour where I was doing different psychic fairs all around the Midwest. And I don't remember the exact location. I think it was Iowa. There was a psychic fair in Iowa that I participated in. And lo and behold, who's there with a booth? With a young woman who is his new mentee, this new special student of his, which is what he used to do. He was a 60-something-year-old guy who would bring young, beautiful women under his wing, and that he was a total disgusting predator. Okay. So he was doing the same thing out at this fair in Iowa. And the young lady who was working his booth, she came over to my booth, which was on the other side of the fair, and we were chatting. I gave her a free copy of my first book that had the story about him, but his name was changed. And I said, "Here, I want you to have my book. I want you to have my book. I want you to read. If I give this to you for free, will you read it?" And I explained to her, this talks about sexual predators in the spiritual community and how that all works. And she's like, okay. She seemed very innocent. And so I gave her the book. And about an hour later, um, you know who, the dark shaman dude, he walks by my booth and he doesn't say anything. He walks by, he stops and he points at me. And I was like, okay, dude, whatever. This was like 6 years ago, I think, 6 years ago. So that night, now it was a 2-day fair, so I had to sleep overnight at an Airbnb. That night, so the story that I'm getting to is that night he astral traveled to me in the dream time. And in the astral, his face, he had all this face paint on. I don't know what culture the face paint was related to, but he had all this face paint on. A lot of it was black. He had black face paint with some designs. And he was just this ominous presence. And I think, and he, like, no harm actually came to me, but I think he was just trying to scare me because he's an idiot. And so when I woke up, I did my usual clearing and made sure that all my energy was good to go. But I was like, dude, you're an idiot. Like, he was just trying to scare me because I gave that book to his most recent victim. So luckily, there was no actual attack. He was just showing himself to me in order to get me, I don't know, to scare me or intimidate me or whatever. So no, nothing came of that. And now somebody else might have been scared of that, but I could feel that there was no attack. There was nothing, no power behind it. It was just, I'm showing you my face, so you'll be scared of me. And I was like, whatever, dude. He's he's a disgusting, gross person. Okay. So I just did some basic clearing and I cleared him off. Um, Now I know this is off topic, but um, you might be wondering, like, well, did I tell the person in charge of the fair? Well, every time I told the person in charge of that fair and other fairs when he was in that other community, they didn't want to hear it because they just wanted somebody interesting to rent their booth space. They wanted the money. They didn't care. So this is part of the problem with spiritual communities allowing predators, but that's a whole other topic. And I do have a video on YouTube, how sexual predators infiltrate spiritual communities. And I also talk about it in all three of my books. I broach the topic. So those are my two stories of astral travel. And of course, without going into any details, I will say I've worked with a lot of clients over the years who have dealt with major, because the stories that I shared are minor. I've worked with clients who've had major attacks that involved astral travel. And I'm not going to go into those details, but I'm going to further define the different types of attacks next, after I read some of your comments. And remember, at the end, I'm going to give 3 tips for how to protect yourself. Okay. Yeah. Catherine says, I need a book to read, and I've been meaning to get your third book since I loved the first two. Yeah, and the third book is a really quick read. It's not as complex as the second book, and it's a little bit shorter. And honestly, I mean, you could get through it in an afternoon, but it's really important content. Lee says, I've heard about many predators in spiritual communities. Yep, that's what my third book is all about, the dark side of spiritual healers, teachers, and light workers. Catherine has a story to share. She says, I used to go to angel circle meetings, and one time this man that was invited to one by one to one by one of the ladies seemed so creepy. Even though he was nice looking, I had such a creepy feeling, like he was a user predator, and I felt so uncomfortable with him there. I felt like he was like a cult leader posing as a healer. Yep, that happens a lot. Okay, so I know we've already defined astral travel, but let's talk about it again real quick before we get into the two types of attack. Definition of astral travel. Astral travel is also called out-of-body experience, having an out-of-body experience. And it's also called bilocation. Bilocation, where like you're in one place, but another part of you is in another place. Bilocation meaning you're in two places at once. Okay, so but we're going to be using the word astral travel for the most part today. This is when your spiritual essence leaves your body and you are traveling in the astral realm, or you might be traveling in the physical realm, floating on the top of your ceiling, looking down at things, or flying up in the sky. There are all sorts of different experiences that people have. And then the flip side of the coin is you're not astral traveling, but somebody else astral travels to you and is messing with you while you're in your physical body. Or third option, you're out of body. The other person, the predator, is out of body and they're messing with you while you're in the astral. Okay. So let's talk about these two types of attack that can happen regarding astral travel. And then I'm going to give 3 tips. Okay. Always got to drink a glass of water. 2 types of psychic attack related to astral travel. First one, now I've got to look at my notes here because I've got a lot of details here. First one is when the person astral travels to you. You might be fully awake going about your day, or they might astral travel to you when you're in bed awake or when you're in bed asleep. So just to clarify, you might be asleep and you're in your body, you're not astral traveling, but you wake up to see them standing by your bed or hovering over you, or even messing with you sexually when they are in astral form, spiritual form, and they're messing with you with your energy, and it causes a physical reaction. And you wake up and you realize that this person has astral traveled to you and is violating you. So who might this person be? Who might astral travel to you in order to cause harm? This might be a dark healer. So someone who says they're a healer, but they're really doing dark things. This might be a dark magician, a dark witch. All of these things, I say dark because there are legitimate, beneficial, benevolent healers, beneficial, benevolent magicians, beneficial, benevolent witches who work for healing. But then there are those that are working to harm people. A dark healer, dark magician, dark witch, or other person versed in occult, esoteric, spiritual methods. Why would they do this? Why would someone like that? Or, and also, it doesn't just have to be a dark healer or someone who's a professional. In the story that I shared, it was just some dude who was like trying to connect with me and control me from the stupid dating website. I mean, a total stranger. So, with all the clients that I've worked with over the years, 99% of the time, it's some type of dark shaman or dark healer, but it can be other kinds of people too. But why? Why would they do this? Why would the person astral travel to you to violate your energy and violate your consent? Why? It's for control. So there are a few reasons. Control. They might be doing it to psychically attack you. So instead of sending black magic or other forms of attack, they might decide to come directly to you and attack you that way, where they're right in there messing with your energy. They might want to punish you. One common thing that I've seen is when a dark practitioner, when a client decides that they don't want to work with the practitioner anymore, the dark practitioner gets angry and decides to punish the client or the former client. I'm going to punish you for not working with me anymore. How dare you fire me? How dare you not work with me anymore? I'm going to punish you. And so they will astral travel to the person and like just terrorize them, usually at night, but it can be at other times of day as well. Other reasons why. Why would they astral travel to you? To suck life force energy. So there's like an energy vampirism thing. To attach energy cords and suck energy. To scare you. Or in the case of my second story, right? The dark shaman astral traveled in order to warn me. Don't speak up about me. Be scared of me. Didn't work. They might astral travel to you in order to directly psychic attack you. They might astral travel to you in order to engage in mind control, in order to manipulate or mess with your energy. So they're manipulating or messing with your energy in some way, maybe blocking off certain chakras or placing things into your energy field, or like I mentioned before, sucking energy out. And then, of course, unfortunately, there are also sexual violations. And the person who does this is doing it for control, but also in order to get their jollies. A lot of times that's why they're doing it. So that's the first way that astral travel is used in spiritual warfare. It's when a person astral travels to you. Now, remember, I'm going to give 3 tips at the end for what to do. It's because if this is new to you and you're like, oh my God, that can happen, what? I'm going to give you 3 tips on how to nip it in the bud. Okay. The sooner that you nip it in the bud, the easier it will be. It tends to be that the longer an issue has been going on, the longer it takes to clear it. So it'll be good to nip it in the bud right away. Before I read a couple of your comments, I have a little rant that I wrote down in my notebook. So relating to this first type of astral travel psychic attack, so I talked about different types of dark healers, dark shamans who will do this intentionally in order to harm their client or to harm whoever their target is. But there are also not just like the purely evil dark healers, but there are also tons of misguided, poorly trained, well-meaning healers and spiritual teachers who randomly visit their students in the astral realm because they think that's a good thing to do. Like, oh yeah, I just randomly visit my students, and if they need help, fix their energy for them. Boundary issues. These are people that have they don't understand proper boundaries. Like that type of action is those are major boundary violations. Okay. Anybody who's doing that and thinks that that's a good idea is totally misguided. And I'm sorry, they're an idiot. Like, you should not be doing that. I blame it on the fact that there are not very many good spiritual mentors out there. There are a lot of poorly trained there are a lot of people who are what I call certificate collectors. They've taken like a bunch of little mini workshops, and now they call themselves a master of whatever. And then they themselves are trying to train people, but they don't understand. No one has taught them about ethics, integrity, consent, and they don't understand it themselves within their own being. And they've never had a mentor that's taught them. And now they're mentoring their own students, and it's just this lack of integrity is being passed down and passed down and passed down, and it's just ridiculously horrific. And this was one thing, I don't want to offend anybody here, but this was one thing that really frustrated me about Reiki trainings. I'm not saying that I'll never teach Reiki again. I'm not saying that. I personally do Reiki on myself every day. I love Reiki, but I was getting very frustrated with these, like, you're going to do a couple of days of training and now you're a master. And then you yourself are training people. And it was like a whole assembly line of pumping out all these certificate collectors who didn't know what the heck they were doing. They were barely trained in the method, and then they did not have training in um, how to be a leader, how to be a person of integrity. Like, they didn't have any of that training. So overall, there's a big problem, not just I'm not trying to throw Reiki under the bus, but it was just my personal experience with being a Reiki trainer when I was in Kansas City. But in the spiritual community at large, just overall spiritual community, there is no sense of understanding or respect for personal boundaries and consent. And this is a real problem. And the funny thing is, whenever I would try to set boundaries with colleagues who would blatantly engage in boundary violations, like I'd be at a spiritual event and they would come right up to me and say, they would start messing with my energy field, like moving their hand and being like, oh, we got to clear this thing. And I'm like, stop it. And then they would get really upset with me, and they would go tell on me to the facilitator, like, she was mean to me. All I did was tell you that I did not consent to what you're doing, you know? But it's like, there are so many people working as quote healers who get offended by even the thought of um, being asked to honor consent. It's a real problem. So we have people who are truly evil, who know exactly what they're doing. They are on purpose violating consent and harming people. And then we have the whole crew of clueless idiots. I'm sorry, I don't like to use that word, but it's just funny. But it's not funny, right? We have this whole crew of clueless people who are astral traveling and doing all sorts of other consent violations. So if anyone truly evil or just a clueless healer astral travels to you, they don't have more power over you. You immediately say, get the fuck out of my bedroom. I don't give you consent. Okay, just because maybe they have more training or they have more certificates on their wall. you have the right to refuse. And I'll get into that a little bit more when I give my 3 tips at the end. Now we're going to get into the second type of attack, but let me read a couple of comments. Rose says, I did this accidentally once, astral traveled. Never again. It spooked me. I was in a place I didn't belong. Oh, that's interesting. Catherine says, OMG, just visiting someone sounds really weird. Yeah. You're like, oh, let me just, it's like the equivalent of, yeah, let me just walk into someone's house, into their bedroom while they're sleeping and just look at them and like poke on them. Like, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. But again, it's about power and cluelessness. Okay, now we're going to do the other side of the coin. Number 2. Number 2 type of psychic attack related to astral travel is when you are the one who is astral traveling and you're out in the astral realm or you're in the dream realm or wherever you are when you're in your there's a whole bunch of different things that can happen when you're in your astral body, when you're when you're having an out of body experience. Yeah, but regardless, when you're out of your body on purpose or accidentally, some people astral travel on purpose. A lot of people do it accidentally. They pop out of their body when there's like a trauma or something physical trauma or an emotional trauma, or it just happens randomly, accidentally. But what's most common is people accidentally astral travel at night when they're sleeping. And so when you are astral traveling and you are attacked or messed with on some level by either a living person who is astral traveling, or B, you are attacked by spiritual entities while you are in your astral body. Okay. This usually happens during sleeping time, but it can happen really anytime. So again, this is when you astral travel and you are attacked by either A, a living person who is astral traveling, or B, spiritual entities. So either way, you're the one that's astral traveling and you get attacked on the astral plane, basically. Okay. So those are the 2 ways. It's where either you're, number 1, you're in your physical body and someone astral travels to you and is trying to mess with you, or when you are the one who astral travels and you get attacked on the astral realm by either another astral traveler or spiritual entities. Could be any kind of spiritual entities. And let's get into the topic that I think Catherine brought up a little while ago about how she wasn't sure if it was okay to astral travel. Now I'm going to share my opinion with you. As always, I want you to form your own opinion and your own approach on this. As someone who has been helping people recover from psychic attack and negative spiritual experiences for many years, based on that, I do not recommend astral traveling on purpose. And I actually, I'm going to give you one tip also in a little bit for how to stay in your body and not accidentally astral travel. I recommend staying in your body. And that's because there is just so much garbage on the astral realm. I've had a couple people argue with me there about this. Their argument was, but I want to be able to explore the higher realms. Notice the wording. I want to be able to explore the higher realms. Well, but what was happening was when they were popping out of their body, they were going to the astral realm, which is not the higher realms. The astral realm is like a back alley. Like all the random weird entities are hanging out in the astral realm. That's not a place where you're going to find all sorts of wonderful spiritual answers. I do know of a few people who are extremely adept at astral traveling, and they are able to control exactly where they go, and they are able to go to areas that are safer. They are able to teach themselves to protect themselves. That is a valuable skill. I get it. They're able to go to some of the higher realms. These are people who have a natural ability, and um, they have trained themselves to navigate. Most people are not able to do that. So they end up in the garbage dump with all these nasty entities. And then when they come out of it, when they wake up, they have just basically all these energy cooties on them. And it does affect your daily life. It affects your energy. It affects everything going forward. It can affect, like, if your energy is all mucked up, it can affect your relationships, your job, your money, your health, everything. So you don't want to be like purposely swimming in a toxic waste dump or lake, toxic waste lake. You don't want to be doing that. Of course, you have free will. I leave it to you to decide. This is just my opinion. Um, and what else do I want to say here? Okay, so if you are spiritually curious, like I am, there are ways that you can explore other realms and you can explore information and realms and dimensions, but you can do it in a different way. We don't have time in this video for me to teach you, break down and teach you how to do what I'm going to describe, but this is just to give you an idea and plant the seed. So what I do, I call it remote viewing, but there's different um, meanings to remote viewing. When some people refer to remote viewing, they're actually talking about astral traveling, and that's not what I'm talking about. So what I do is I stay inside my body. I keep myself firmly inside my body. I'm rooted, I'm connected with Mother Earth, I'm fully present. And then I send out my awareness. Let's say I want to connect in. So let's not talk about the astral realm. Let's say I want to connect with the elemental realm and fairies and other earth elementals. Then I'm going to connect in with that dimension. I'm going to sit out in nature and I'm going to connect with that. Let's say I want to connect with the heavenly realms and I'm doing a mediumship reading. I'm not going to astral travel there. I'm going to stay in my body and I'm going to expand my consciousness and send my awareness. I'm going up, but that's not really where the heavenly realms are. But I'm going to send my awareness out to the heavenly realms, to the afterlife, whatever you want to call it, whatever you like to call it. And I tune in to whoever it is that they're asking me to tune into. I can even tune into the lower realms without getting mucked up by being in the lower realms, right? I can connect in and get an understanding of uh, what that place is all about. I don't like to call it hell because I don't really think of it that way. It's a lower vibrational realm. Um, you name it, I can connect with it. Um, just FYI, I'm not all knowing. I can't like tune into anything on the planet and know all the details. But just explaining that I personally don't astral travel. I do what some people would call remote viewing. My version of remote viewing is where I stay in my body and I expand my consciousness to connect with whatever that is. Because our whole reality and all the realities are basically we think of it as grids, there have been a couple times in my life um, where I've become like extreme clairvoyant. All the time I have clairvoyance. I get flashes and visions and stuff. But there have been a couple of times where I've slipped into like complete, it was very cool. I don't know if I could function in it all the time, but a couple of times I slipped into a state where I was literally seeing the energy grids of like I saw my own chakras. I looked down, I saw it was these like beautiful geometric designs. Fractals is the word. Different fractals of geometric designs of my heart chakra and the lower chakras, and everything was grids of energy. And so not only have I read this, but I've seen it, that like everything is, it's all like this, I'm going to call it information field. It's like grids connected with grids, connected with grids. Everything is connected. So this is why I can just send my awareness out into, you know, another realm or into this realm, and I can connect into the information, whether it's a psychic reading or something else connected with information, and then bring it back to me because it's all connected. It's not separate. So that's my experience. I'm going to tell you the moment when I knew I never wanted to astral travel again. I hadn't planned on talking about this, but this is so important. In my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light, about 3/4 of the way through the book, I talk about how when I finally realized what was happening, I started to call out the people in the situation. And the entity involved got very threatened. And I did not expect this, but in the middle of the night, this thing woke me up out of a deep sleep. And this was actually one of the most terrifying situations that has ever happened to me in my entire life. This thing was hovering above me, and it wasn't in physical form, but I'm going to say it like reached forward. It was this energy, but it reached like part of its energy forward into inside my shoulders, reached in, and it yanked and tried to yank my soul out of my body. And it is a feeling I can't even describe. Like, how do you even imagine something trying to yank your soul out of your body? And it was not able to accomplish that. But for a few hours after that, I was hyperventilating. I was on my side. I was like completely freaking out. And I'm somebody who has seen ghosts my whole life. I don't get too scared by things, but that scared the crap out of me. And so I just was in a fetal position until the sun came up. And I kept thinking, if it had pulled my soul out of my body, basically, if it had done like a forced out of body experience, then it would have entered into me. Maybe. Like, was it wanting to possess? And I knew right then and there, like, I'm staying put. Nothing. I'm not leaving this vessel until I am officially going to die, which is going to be way far in the future. I'm staying fully present because when you leave your house vacant, then something can come in and enter. So that is the reason why I personally, I will never astral travel. And it's not out of fear. It's out of like, I know what I know. All I needed was that experience. And I know I don't want to leave any chance that anything can enter into my body while I'm out gallivanting around the universe, right? And I have been very happy with being able to um, connect with all sorts of realms in the way that I do it, which is a very grounded, embodied way. So that's my little rant on that. And I saw there were some comments I'm going to read here in just a second. I want to ask you if you have any questions, or if what I've taught so far has caused you to want to share anything, any stories, questions, etc. And then I'm going to go into these 3 tips, and then we'll close out for the night. Let me take a little breather here.
Yeah, I have a couple stories. Can I speak
Oh,
out loud?
hey, Lee, we
Yeah.
always use the chat. So
Okay.
we type it, yeah, in this format. Thank you, Lee. I appreciate you. Okay, I'm going to read the comments. Okay. Catherine says, I listen to some people online that think we should leave our bodies, and I don't feel comfortable to want to explore that. So I'm glad you say no. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I respect the fact that other people might disagree with me on this, and they'll say, "Oh, you just need to set up protection and it's no big deal." And I get that, but uh my view is based on the direct psychic attack that I experienced, where a jinn tried to, in my opinion, enter me, and based on helping many, many people over the years recover from psychic attack and negative spiritual interference. So that's what I base my opinion on. And I do wish we used to let people unmute and share, but in order to have time at the end for the 3 tips that I'm going to share, we won't have time for people to unmute. But I will read your comments. Let me see where I was at. Yeah, I'm just seeing some of the comments here. Lee says, I stay in my body. Last year I left my body and I was really weak, and I went right back in. I did not leave on purpose. Yeah, if you ever leave your body on accident, and again, many people astral travel unknowingly during sleep. So if you do that, or if you pop out of your body accidentally, you don't have to um, beat yourself up over that, or whatever emotional reaction somebody might have. You just say, okay, um, I intend not to. I intend not to leave my body, if that's your intention. So I'm going to give some tips now. And part of the tips that I'm going to give are about how to not leave your body. That's going to be tip number 2, if you choose not to. Okay. Advice. 3 tips. All right. So tip number 1 is relating to the first type of psychic attack that I talked about, where somebody has astral traveled to you. Now, this tip is going to work best if it is a newly occurring situation. It should take care of the issue. But even if it has been a recurring issue for a long time, I still recommend this, but you might need more protection techniques, because the longer something's been going on, the more you have to throw at it. So the advice, if somebody has astral traveled to you without your consent, is standard boundaries. So just because they're in spiritual form, I think that kind of freaks people out, and they say, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" But you've got to remember that you are in power, whether they're in their astral body or not. You have the right to say, "Get the fuck out." Okay? And I've worked with a lot of people over the years who are way, I'm not referring to anyone in particular, but I've just noticed, especially with women, and I get it, I'm a woman too. I was raised to be really nice, really nice. A lot of people are too nice, and they say, and they set the boundary and they say, get out, but it's like, it's not coming from their full power. So some of us have to do a lot of work to find our inner power. But my advice to you would be to set the boundary, just like if there was a real physical intruder in your house. And I'll say it this way also, because even when there's an intruder in people's house, in a person's house, a lot of people still don't set a strong enough boundary, but they do if it's their child. So if you have a child or children and an intruder came into your house and was in the living room or the bedroom or whatever room with one or more of your children, your mama bear or papa bear energy would come up like so, your energy would be so big and you'd be like, get the F out of my house. Do not touch my children. Right? A lot of people are able to tap into that power more when it comes to their children than with themselves, because at least in my culture, growing up in the Western world, I was taught that you're a bad girl or a bad boy. You're bad if you speak up against whoever's acting like they're in authority. If you speak out, or if you're rude, you know, don't be rude. Don't be rude. Even if someone's about to attack you, don't be rude. And we've been so ingrained with that. But it's easier when we imagine if it's our own child, then we don't care about being rude. Like, get the F away from my child, right? So if it helps to think of it like that, but you're going to set those boundaries, and you have every right to be, you are sovereign over yourself, whether you're in the astral body or you're fully present in your physical body. You have authority over yourself. I don't care who that entity or that person says that they are. I don't care if they say they're a higher being or they're Satan or whoever they say they are. I don't care. You have authority over yourself, and you have the authority and the right to say, get out. And I've even like gotten up out of my bed and yelled, get out. Because being in bed, I felt too passive. So I had to stand up and get into my power position. Again, be patient with yourself, especially the women watching this. Be patient with yourself if this doesn't come easily. We just did a whole, I think it was 5-class series on reclaiming your power in Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And anyone who joins has access to all the past content. This is really important. Learning how to stand in your power. It sounds easy, but it's not for a lot of people. But if someone astral travels to you without consent, you have the right to set boundaries and to tell that person or that being to get out. And now let me read a couple of comments and then we'll get on to tip number 2, which has to do with how to stay in your body. Lee says, are lucid dreams the same as astral travel? So lucid dreaming is when you are dreaming. So you're not astral traveling. It's when you are dreaming. Lucid dreaming is when you're dreaming and you become mentally aware that you are dreaming. So you know that you're in a dream. That's what it means, that you're lucid dreaming, is that you're aware that you're dreaming while you're dreaming. Because most of the time you're just dreaming, you're just in the dream. But when you're like, oh, I'm in a dream right now, and so you start to control what's happening in the dream, that's called lucid dreaming. And so that's not the same as leaving your body. And Catherine says, LOL, can they read? How about a sign that says, get the F out? Sure. a sigh. I like to yell it, but it also, if you have neighbors, if you live in an apartment, I'm a big fan of whisper shouting. Whisper shouting works really well. Get the F out. It works really well. The point being, you got to use power, whether it's whisper shouting or regular shouting. Okay. All right. Tip number 2. This has to do with the second type of issue with astral traveling, where you leave your body, where you astral travel, and you end up getting attacked in the astral realm in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, I'm reading one of the comments. I'll read that in just a second. So there are a couple of tips that I give people that are really simple that can help you stay in your body, so that if you have trouble, that when you sleep, that you think that you're astral traveling and you're experiencing attacks while you astral travel, and you're like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to stay in my body, get some rest, and do some dreaming, normal dreaming. Then the first thing that you can do is to make a statement, and you say, no astral travel. I will stay in my body. No astral travel. I will stay in my body. Or whatever version of that statement that you want to, however you want to reword it, you say that right before you go to sleep. And now here are some physical tools that you can add to this. One of my favorites is frankincense essential oil, good quality frankincense. Oops, if it's really cheap quality, I can tell you that it is synthetic, not real frankincense. And so you're not getting the aspect of the plant medicine that you want to be getting. So you're going to get a mid-priced to higher priced frankincense essential oil. And you can get that at your organic grocery store. Those are the mid-range, or you can order from doTERRA or Young Living. Those are the expensive ones. So you're going to take a tiny bit, put like a tiny bit on the palm of your hand, and then you're going to put some on your finger, and you're going to dab tiny bit on your brow chakra right here, and a tiny bit on your crown, and or you can rub it in, and then you can rub your hands together, and you can rub it on the bottoms of your feet. You can kind of sit with your legs almost cross-legged, and then rub the bottoms and the tops of your feet with whatever's left of the oil. And even over your socks. If you're wearing socks, that's fine if you live in a cold region. And this is to help anchor you into your body. You can also, there are some different gemstones that can help you ground. Real hematite can be effective for that. This is a real hematite bracelet. It's kind of it's black with kind of a silvery hue. And real hematite is not the magnetic kind. The magnetic kind is fake hematite. So you can, I got this on Etsy, but you can just get a stone and put it under your pillow, a hematite stone, or any other grounding, like one of the black gemstones, and put that under your pillow. Okay, we don't have time to go through all the crystals today, but that's just to get you started. So that's tip number 2 that's how to stay in your body if you choose to. Number 3, really important, is to revoke consent. I give a process for revoking consent in my 3rd book, The Dark Side of Spiritual Healers. Dark Side of Spiritual Healers, Teachers, and Lightworkers. One thing that can happen is if you've worked with a healer, teacher, lightworker who has boundary violation issues, but you've given them prior consent. Let's say you were a client of theirs, and now there's this like unspoken rule, like an unspoken understanding energetically, vibrationally, that they think they can still access your energy whenever they want to. And they don't have permission. Okay, but there's the boundaries are confused on that. So if you want an official text script on how to do that, you can find that in the Dark Side of Spiritual Healers. But basically what I'll say for now is you want to revoke consent. So you could even say something or write something down on a piece of paper. I revoke all consent, spoken or unspoken, that I gave to you in the past. You no longer have access to my energy. You can word that however you want to, but that's the gist of it. I revoke any prior consent that was given to you. Say something like that, and you no longer, so and so, state their name or their initials, no longer has access to me on any level, and so be it. And so it is. You can even do a little ceremony where you light a candle. You can light a reversal candle, which I teach in my first book, Darkness Disguised as Light, or you can just light a white candle or a black candle. A black candle helps to dispel negative energy, or just write it down and read it powerfully. Okay, so the important thing is that you need to revoke consent, because if you've given consent in the past, then sometimes that is the doorway that's letting them in. And so that is an important step to take. If you've never given them consent before, then you might not need to do that step, but you go to step number 1, which is setting boundaries. Okay. So hopefully that should get you started on understanding what these types of attacks are about. You can have some food for thought on whether you really want to be astral traveling or not. And if you decide that you don't want to be astral traveling, these are a couple of quick tips on how to stay in your body. And then you have a few ideas on what to do if anybody does show up unannounced without consent, how to get them off of you. So also, compassionately, I want to remind you that some predators are very adept. They're very powerful. And these very basic methods that I gave you are going to work with a lot of situations. But if the person doing it is highly experienced, this might not be enough. And don't blame yourself for that. That's very normal. So you might need more of the tips that are given in the Psychic Attack Sourcebook. There's step-by-step process in there. And people who are going through severe attacks often need mentoring and guidance. And you can find that in my 12-month program, Spiritual Empowerment Academy. And information on that is at psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Let's read another comment. Catherine says, I love hematite. I have a stone I was drawn to because it was smooth and heavy. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I have different items of protection under my pillow. So our broader topic right now is not psychic protection while you're sleeping. It's more about astral travel attacks. But just FYI, if you're getting attacked in different ways at night, astral travel or other kinds of attack, there's a section on psychic protection while you're sleeping in Darkness Disguised as Light, my first book. There's a section on a few more tips on how to protect yourself while you're sleeping. Yeah. So thank you so much, you guys. This took us the full 90 minutes because we had a lot to go through. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. Lee says, thank you for the class. Victoria says, thank you, Maya. Rose says, great as always. Thanks, Maya. Catherine says, thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. Next month's class is, let me find it. Hang on a second. Next month's class is, are fairies and elementals lovely or spiritually dangerous? And that is the big question. And I feel tempted to start telling you my thoughts on this, but you have to come to next month's class to find out. And yes, elementals are real. That's uh, well, I'm going to say that's a fact because I've worked with them. I've seen them for many years. But some people say that elementals and fairies are dangerous and that there are a lot of evil ones. And some people say, oh, no, fairies are lovely. They're wonderful to work with. So we're going to talk about that next month. And whether you've had any fairy or elemental encounters in the past or not, I think you'll find the topic very interesting. Kateri says, great topic. I think it will be a mixed bag. Yes. So thanks so much, you guys. The replay will be posted tomorrow if you want to watch it again. It's going to be posted in our Facebook group, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And I'll also post it onto our YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary YouTube channel. Thanks so much. I appreciate you all so, so, so much. And as always, I'm sending you lots of love, and I will see you all online.